Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, and a very special hello to Daniela Muente. I've been meaning to give her a shout out on the podcast for some time now. She's always supported the show on Instagram. She describes herself as a Peruvian girl living in Haarlem in the Netherlands and just loves listening to the show, especially when she's going for a run, which has put me into shame there because for those of you that don't know, I went from being a complete non-runner through the couch to 5K thing and eventually running 3 half marathons. But after getting COVID earlier this year, I've lost my way somewhat and not been out. So I do need to sort that out. And I'm looking for a little inspiration. So if any of you want to bully me into going out on Runkeeper, please message me. And Daniela, a big thank you for all the kind words you say about the show on Instagram. And also for reminding me that I need to get out there and start running again to stop myself becoming a extremely overweight podcast host. But speaking of the Netherlands, today I'm going to be learning more about the Amsterdam-based scale-up StuDocu, which was founded in 2013 by 4 students, including CEO Marnix Broer, and it was born out of the need to share resources more efficiently. And since founding the company, we have a great story that has expanded into markets such as Australia, Canada, Germany, and the UK and the US, boasting more than 15 million monthly active users, helping the platform become an international leader in the document sharing space. But I've probably revealed too much already, haven't I? So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Amsterdam, where we will find out much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hi, I'm Marnix Broer. I'm a CEO and co-founder of StuDocu. And this is a company I started with a few friends during my studies. And what we do is we help students to share knowledge with each other. And it comes down to being an online platform where students can share notes with each other, like lecture notes or study guides and some practice material. And in this way, it's very easy for them to find the relevant resources in order to prepare for their exams.
And I'm looking forward to finding out more information about how you founded that as a student. But before we do, where did your passion for technology come from? Can you share your origin story and what put you on the path you're on today?
Yeah, I think in this case, really the tech platforms, let's say, was really just happened to be so. However, during my life, I'm always interested, especially in technique. Also means anything analytical. And that's also why I chose the Delft University of Technology to start studying at. I did mechanical engineering there and offshore engineering. So in the end, I didn't really study for the current job I have, let's say, but I was always fascinated about the latest trends and what's happening with technology. And yeah, then when we launched our own platform during our studies, from that moment on, you were just hooked and continued to go.
Love it. And of course, you've founded your company in 2013 by yourself and 3 other students. But can you share the story behind that launching there and the problems that you set out to solve as students from the very beginning?
Yeah, it started sort of from our own frustrations. And the frustrations arise when we said, let's go study this semester or this quarter for the exams. And when they were coming up, let's say 2 weeks ahead, everybody starts being stressed and starts really going to the library and studying for their exams. But before you can actually do that, you had to gather all the resources to study with. And that meant asking all your friends, people you know, people you studied with, could be anyone you've seen actually at the library, and simply ask like, hey, do you have the latest notes? Or did you go to this lecture because I missed some information? Or you have some practice material about this course. And that took quite some time. I mean, it could take a few days. And even when you were studying, you would always keep an eye open to see where there was someone walking around with a better set of lecture notes than you already had obtained. And then after 4 years of studying, we thought like, why isn't this actually not just digital? Why is it not online? Why can't this be easy? Go to a place and just see what's available out there. And that's what we started then. And later on, we saw that we solved even more than just this frustration, because it was not only gathering, but later on we also noticed that information was lost, and now it wasn't anymore, given that it's just stored at an online platform. Next to that, we also saw that where we had access to those resources quite well, as in luckily we knew quite some people who had those documents. However, there's also a lot of students who do not have that many connections or are not that well connected, let's say. So there wasn't really a level playing field either, because we would go to the same exam, we had to pass the same exams. However, we didn't have the same resources to prepare for it. And now with this platform we created, where everybody has the same access to the same information, suddenly it's a much more level playing field.
I absolutely love the story behind this, because I think each and every one of us, including everyone listening, would have come across something that's frustrated them and had a little moan or complain about it on social media, and then gone, well, what can we do about it? There's nothing we can do. But I love how just, a gang of students there have gone out and said, I'm fed up of this. I want to create a solution and do something about it. And just to inspire anyone at home that might be thinking of doing something similar, since you founded that as students in 2013, the company has now expanded to markets such as Australia, Canada, Germany, UK and the US, and boasts more than 15 million monthly active users, helping the platform become the international leader in the document sharing space. And I think that story alone is so powerful. But for students listening all over the world, can you just walk me through a use case just so students can understand how this tech might resolve their frustrations and help them as you intended to do?
Yeah, sure. So imagine you're a student at Melbourne University, and you are studying law, and within 4 weeks you have to pass the module called Introduction to Australian Law. And in that case, you want to start preparing yourself for that exam, and so you want to search for some great notes. Simply, the only thing you have to do is go to StuDocu, which is our platform, select your university, search for your course, and once you're at that course page, you can see a whole list of all the documents which have been shared already by your fellow students, because that's also the power. So the documents you can use and are listed there are really written and shared by the students who could have sat next to you during the lectures, perhaps a year ago, or perhaps even this semester as well. So you can read everything you want at the platform, but these documents are specifically made for you, let's say. So in the end, also StuDocu we have the 50 million students using us every month, but it's not one marketplace. It's actually thousands of small local communities in every classroom at every university, who then connect with each other. And this can be groups of around 100 to 400 students each, let's say.
And in the very beginning, when I was doing a bit of research, I read that you said that education is a resource that should be accessible to everyone, and you built the platform on that premise. So is that more important to you more than ever all these years later?
Yeah, definitely, because now you realize, and now with the positive comments you get and the reviews of the app or the website itself, you really start seeing that indeed so many people are helped by opening up this source of information, and now you can see the true value. And for us, it was just solving, let's say, the issue between the time it took to gather all your resources, but for so many people now suddenly it's an eye opener that they even have access at all to these documents. So the more you're involved in the business, and the longer you're building it, which is quite some time now, of course, already, you start to realize more and more how important it is that everybody should have access to these documents. And
of course, you utilise the freemium model, where I believe 80% of all documents on the site are free to access by all, and only 20% fall in that premium category. But can you expand on that pricing model?
Yeah, sure. So we started off actually completely free. So every document was fully accessible to anyone. But once we neared our graduation, we saw that, okay, we have quite some students using the platform and being helped by the platform. However, we can't keep up now because in a while we're going to graduate, and then we need some sort of source of income. So that's where we decided to introduce a premium model, where say, okay, the top 20% of the documents indeed are labeled premium. And that also means that 80% of the documents stay for free. So anyone can use this and there's no paywall or whatsoever. The top 20% though, you can access indeed by paying a small fee. And then you can see all the documents. However, if you don't want to pay, you can also just upload your own resources. So if you have a document to share, or then just upload it to StuDocu, and in that sense, in that way, you can also access the top 20%. And this helped us really to get some revenues started, which we can pay the team with, the servers, and keep expanding to new universities. And at the same time, by sort of encouraging students to also upload more documents, we actually create a lot more value for everyone, because now we have a constant inflow of new documents and information coming to the platform, which is super helpful for anyone who then visits again. So even by introducing the model, we suddenly could help a lot more students because we simply grew much and much faster because of it.
And when I was researching you guys, one of the things that really stands out as well is you didn't just set out to solve a few frustrations and then move on, even though you're not students anymore. Can you tell me a little bit more about your belief that education technology, particularly platforms like StuDocu, need to complement the work of teachers and professors and ultimately create ways for students to not just study for exams, but actually learn the course material so it's applicable to their careers in the future? Because I think this is something that so many don't get, and it's so refreshing to hear you speak about this, but can you expand on that?
Yeah, so some people might say that actually using each other's notes is not beneficial to education, and I think the opposite. Actually, I think it's very, very beneficial, because I switched away quite soon in my studies from the idea that simply learning facts by heart would actually make you smarter and help you in life. And I think the opposite is actually true. So now that we live in 2021, but even in the last 10 years, we had smartphones already, which within a few searches, you can find anything online and anything. So all the facts you need to know are actually online and searchable. So what you should actually focus on is actually understanding the matter instead of memorizing the facts. So understanding means, which resources can I use? How can I combine different sources? How can I combine formulas, etc., to actually come to my answer? And this is also actually what happens when you start working in your career. And I believe that education is there to prepare you for your career. And in your career, what you do is actually, one, you combine knowledge and try to understand it and then come to a solution. And secondly, you work together with your team. That's teamwork, and that's what happens in companies. And so I think also when studying, it should be more about teamwork and more about comprehending the knowledge. And these two things are, well, with StuDocu, it's definitely improving, but there's much more edtech, luckily, coming up now, because I think in the past, education has been lagging behind a lot in terms of improvements on the tech side. And COVID, luckily, sort of pushed universities, teachers, professors, but also the students themselves to actually adopt these new technologies much quicker than they used to do before. So we're catching up a little bit, but still, in my opinion, we're far behind of where and what kind of techniques and software companies are already using. So there's a long way to go, but in a way, this is the bright side of the COVID pandemic.
I completely agree with you, and it's so refreshing to hear you say that. And with the continued rise of edtech too, especially over the last 18 months, StuDocu recently received $50 million in funding, and many other edtech companies are also receiving funding at the moment. And can you tell me a little bit more about that trend and ultimately what this funding means to you and your company?
Yeah, so to start with the trend, I think it's two things why there's a lot of money raised in the edtech space. One is just in general with the negative interest rates all around the world right now. People who have money, let's say, need to do something with it. So that also means that more and more people would actually use equity funds like venture capitalists or private equity funds to deploy their money. And that means that there's much more willingness to invest into companies. And so that's why it's easier to raise now. Secondly, on the edtech space specifically, COVID showed that suddenly people should be able to learn and educate themselves online. And that gave an enormous boost to the whole edtech space. And in universities, etc., we see it by more software, which actually often already existed, but suddenly got an uplift. But you'll see more companies starting in edtech. And on top of that, especially with the investors, this is just the popularity edtech became into. And that's why suddenly more and more investors want to invest in edtech companies.
And if we look at the corporate world, everyone went from working, we're almost forced to work from home at scale right across the world. And then now, as offices open back up, there's more of a hybrid approach where half the office could be at home and the other half in the office. So as regards education, do you think solutions that were desperately needed during COVID-19 study from home period, do you think that will continue to be as important as students return back to school? Because it certainly feels that way, and it feels like everything's changed now.
No, definitely. I think the same will apply to the students and to the professors. I think professors now have seen that people don't have to per se physically attend the lectures, for example. It's fine to actually watch them online, but even better, watch them at their own time. So some people might not be full of energy, let's say at 9 o'clock in the morning. So why would you go to that lecture? Actually, it's recorded. So watch it at the time where you really are focused and ready to absorb the information. So these small examples will definitely continue to be so. And I strongly hope that it will be like this as well, because I don't want to go back to the old way of studying, where actually, like I mentioned before, education is so far behind already on adopting tech. So please, let's hope that actually this stays around like it does in the workforce.
Fantastic. And we started today's podcast talking about your origin story, and we'll put you on this path. I'm now going to ask you, what was the soundtrack to that origin story? Can you remember a song or piece of music that seems to have accompanied you throughout your tech journey, or a song that just helps you get your head in the zone before going on stage? Is there a song that means anything to you that we can put on our Spotify playlist?
No, definitely. Personally, especially this summer, I like to sort of, once you've worked and you want to relax a bit, I love to also listen to music. And my favorite song at the moment would be 6s to 9s from The Big Wow.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Great choice. I'll add that to our playlist. And for anyone listening that would like to find out more information about StuDocu, whether they be anyone in education or students, what's the best way of finding you online and contacting your team?
Yeah, simply either just go to the website, so StuDocu.com. Indeed, it will redirect you straight away to the country you're based in. But moreover, we have, if you're interested in working in tech or in edtech, please visit our jobs page, which is jobs.studocu.com. And of course, we have a very nice Instagram page where you can follow us. And if you want, send us some direct messages.
Well, I think yours is such an inspirational story, from starting as a gang of students that went out to solve these problems, and then based all from your frustrations to then enjoying such success all over the world, serving international markets and gaining $50 million in funding. If that doesn't inspire somebody listening to us in the world right now, nothing will. But more than anything, just thank you for taking the time to sit down and share it with me.
Thank you too.
I just love the story behind StuDocu and the belief that education is a resource that should be accessible to everyone, and built the platform on that very premise. And yes, it does utilise a freemium model where 80% of all documents on the site are free to access by all, and only 20% fall into that premium category. So please, if we have any students listening anywhere in the world, I urge you to check them out. And report back to me at Tech Talks Daily Towers. Let me know what you think. Good, bad, indifferent. I'd love to hear. And I'd also love to hear more about you and your stories. So remember, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram at Neil C. Hughes. My email address is techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. So a big thank you to today's guest, for Daniela, for her words of encouragement, and each and every one of you for listening. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.